So why South Africa as a destination for medicine? South African doctors are highly sought after due to their extensive experience as well as base knowledge regarding both their trauma experience as well as the extensive medical conditions that are seen throughout South Africa due to HIV. I got most of my experience in medicine due to my time in Khayelitsha hospital. This is a place known for the severity of the trauma there as well as the medically sick patients. If you're a doctor looking at visiting South Africa for experience, or perhaps you're a doctor who's interested in emergency medicine, then this video will help you decide and give you some insights into the experience here in South Africa. Currently, or at least the last time I was there was actually a waiting list for foreign doctors to come and visit some of these hospitals to gain experience due to the extensive trauma. Foreign doctors will essentially visit South Africa for a short period of time just to get a massive dose of medical experience in the shortest amount of time. Most of them are seeing 10 to 20 times more trauma seen in our hospitals than what they would normally experience at home. So what can you expect from South African medicine, and where would I suggest you get this experience? I honestly don't think you can go wrong with any kind of place in South Africa in terms of medical experience. There are always patients to see and there's always work to be done. My suggestion would be to go to a place that has a significant amount of trauma as well as medical emergencies, while still having enough supervision so that you can be guided on your journey to make sure that you're doing the right things and learning along the way. My experience is mainly around Cape Town, South Africa, but since this is quite a good tourist spot, I would suggest it, as you can get both medical experience and at the same time get some tourism done. South African medicine, like most places, is broken up into both private and state sector. I would suggest skipping the private side, although it is an option, and going straight to state. You'll just see a lot more trauma and a lot more medical emergencies this way, and also more help is needed in those areas. The three main hospitals I would be suggesting are all secondary level hospitals. This would be Khayelitsha Hospital, Mitchells Plain Hospital and Victoria Hospital. In terms of tertiary level institutes, you only really have two options, which is Tygerberg Hospital and Groote Schuur Hospital. The choice between a secondary level hospital or a tertiary level hospital is mainly based on what your own individual outcomes are and what experience you're looking for. From a practical point of view, you're definitely going to get more hands-on experience at a secondary level hospital. At a tertiary level hospital, while you'll probably see more complicated cases, most of them go through the secondary level hospitals, so patients are generally stabilized and a lot of the workup is done before they actually land up at the tertiary level institute, unless they've gone directly there. Once again, this is based on your own individual needs or outcomes. As I said, you can't really go wrong with any of these hospitals. And at the same time, you'll get a lot of hands-on experience depending on what level of training you're at. And you'll also probably land up doing many procedures that you would seldom be doing in your own country of origin. As I mentioned before, I got most of my experience from Khayelitsha Hospital, where I did a full year of emergency training. Subsequently, I also did a few months there during the COVID-19 pandemic. For myself, this was an eye-opening experience, but also a huge turning curve in my medical career in terms of my training and knowledge. You can essentially see almost anything you can imagine, from very complicated HIV and TB cases to open thoracotomies in the front room. At the end of the year, literally anything could walk through the door and you'd probably know how to manage it. It's a great burst of experience in a short space of time. Despite that, no matter how much time has passed, that place still seems to shock me. Every now and then something walks through the door which you've never seen before and might never see again. The place really made me grow as a doctor, and I used my time there to obtain a diploma in emergency medicine in the subsequent year of my training there. So just a bit of an overview of what you can be expecting there in terms of procedures and things that you'll be doing. There'll be lots of intubating of patients, also putting in a lot of chest drains for patients with stab wounds to their chests. You'll be managing very complex HIV as well as medically complicated patients, often usually reserved for the ICU setting, such as managing diabetics in ketoacidosis, which is normally at a high care setting. You normally manage this in the resus room in the emergency center. And you'll probably see a countless amount of stab wounds, more than you'll ever need to see in your entire life. Honestly, at the end of your experience there, you'll literally just be saying, oh, well, there's another stab wound at front. It won't even surprise you anymore. You'll just pick up the pack of files and get on treating the patients. You'll see tons of fractures due to trauma. Some you've seen before, some you haven't, and honestly, the list goes on and on. I could spend a whole day talking about the cases that I've seen there. I think even spending a few months there can give you enough experience to prepare you for any sort of situation. The consultants and clinicians who are there with you, who will be helping you on the way, are highly experienced, and their tutorials and knowledge and insight is really valuable. You'll also be amazed at how patients in such poor economic situations are able to survive in such terrible conditions with multiple comorbidities. Some other important things to note is just the negative side of this. Obviously, you're seeing a ton of trauma and medically ill patients, and this can have quite an impact on someone over time. So if you are quite sensitive to such things, I would just warn you beforehand that sometimes it can be quite a lot for an individual to digest over a short space of time. Another thing to consider is some safety considerations. Many of these hospitals are in quite dangerous areas, and I would therefore suggest either going with some people who are already working there, or go in a group for safety to getting to these locations. As long as you don't do anything stupid, you should be fine. So how do you go about applying for some of these positions? Most of the universities do have some sort of procedure in place for applying to these hospitals where you can gain some experience. Also, I would suggest contacting the head of the emergency department at each hospital to further gain some extra information on this. I'll put some links below to some of the universities' pages to help you get some access. And then practically, what would I recommend? I would suggest staying there at least 2 weeks or more to get some experience. This is probably enough time to see quite a few things, but obviously the more time you're there, the better. I think the best sort of people for this kind of experience are those doctors that have just finished their internship. But that being said, I have seen many registrars or doctors doing their residency also coming just to gain some experience, even though they often are more senior to some of the doctors working there. They often don't have as much experience as them. So it's still very valuable from that point of view. At the end of the day, I essentially think any amount of time is valuable there, even if you're not doing any practical procedures. If you're just there to watch and gain some experience, that's also very valuable. I hope this video gave you some insight into my medical experience in South African medicine, and I hope that you can use this to possibly come here in the future to get some experience of your own. And please let me know also if there are any other medical specialities you'd be interested in me going over in South Africa. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video.